Okay, so we are now giving continuation to the Medium's book today. We are on chapter 6 of part 2, visual manifestations that we started last month, and today we should continue on question 24. Of course, we cannot go back and read all those questions again, but there are some questions that perhaps would be the ones that we're going to see ahead that may require and have not read some of those questions before. It's been a month already, I know. Most of us don't remember. I do because I have to read a little bit before. But if you have to go back, we'll go back. But of course, you cannot go back to the whole thing. But primarily in this first part of this chapter, Kardec places questions to the good spirits regarding visual manifestations. It doesn't say exactly here if it was one or another spirits. In the previous chapter, Kardec used Erastus, the spirit of Erastus, to make corrections and complement interview that Kardec had with some spirits who were able to perform apportations, right? With this chapter here, it doesn't say exactly who is giving the answers. So I'm assuming that the spirit of truth, the same group of spirits that provided the answers in the spirit's book. But again, it's an assumption since there is not a name here. Okay, but we know that Erastus is the spirit that kind of took the responsibility to assist Kardec with the studies of mediumship. That is the one that's mostly involved in the medium's book. Is the one who dedicated tremendous amount of time doing researches and understand mediumship very well, so he could pass it to us. In these questions over here, Kardec seems to try to go through some of the folk tales to eliminate some of mysticism regarding the subject of visual manifestations and to explain some phenomena that at one point we address them to spirituality, and now science can easily explain to us those visual things that we have that in the past we'd say there was spirits. So a very quick recap, which is not a complete recap by any means of the imagination. We saw that Kardec has told us so far that spirits can render themselves visible to us in some different ways. The most common, the one that is most frugal and we see it daily, is in dreams. We just completed the stories of dreams in the Spirit's book. Those who are following will understand very well. When we sleep and we partially disengaged ourselves from the physical body that is at rest, we have experiences in the spiritual dimension and we interact with spirits, with obviously there is the visual aspect of that interaction. There could be apparitions in terms of physical phenomena, making use of a medium of physical effect, produces the proper substance that we call ectoplasm, and the spirits will utilize that substance, combine with their own substances, and make themselves visible, and that would be for everyone in that place, not only for seeing mediums. And another way of the spirits would present to us is through seeing mediums with the ability of have that open window, so to say, to the spiritual world, in which they can see spirits and other things in the spiritual world. And very, very rare, since we are all mediums in accordance to Kardec, in a very small degree, of course. We all can have some interaction with the spirit dimension in again, very rare circumstances in our lives. We may experience a vision, not necessarily being an ostensive medium. In very specific circumstances that we're going to see later, we may have that very short opening of the window to the spiritual world and be able to see an spirit. Okay? Most important to remember here that Kardec says that all spirits can manifest themselves. It's not reserved for good or bad spirits. It's not reserved for the more enlightened or the least enlightened. All can make themselves visible, of course, in specific situations, right? And of course, it's a matter of intention. Good spirits would appear with good intentions to console, to educate, to provide a more palpable evidence of their existence. And of course, a more ignorant spirit would have different, perhaps opposite kind of intentions to cause fear, to to personal enjoyment, just kind of having some fun at the cost of other people's fears and stuff like that. Okay, it's a very short recap. It doesn't cover everything. Again, we stopped in question 23 the last time, and today we started question 24. So Ryder can do the favor, please.
Yes, of course. Number 24. Are the spirits who appear always intangible and inaccessible? In their normal state, they are intangible like a dream. Nevertheless, they can make an impression upon your sense of touch and leave signs of their presence. In some cases, they can even render themselves tangible for a moment, which proves the existence of some kind of matter between them and you.
Okay. For this question, I'm going to go back to question 21. Yeah, that's 21 quickly. And can you read that 21, Sarada?
Yes. How can a spirit render itself visible? The principle is the same as for all other manifestations. It resides in the properties of the perispirit, which can undergo as many modifications as the spirit sees fit.
Okay, so the principle is the same for all manifestations. To become visible or to become more tangible and even palpable in some circumstances. Okay? It resides in the property of the perispirit. The perispirit is extremely malleable. Okay? It can absorb with easier, of course, depending on the quality of the spirit, more dense matter and makes itself more palpable, more tangible. Remember that there's 3 elements required for all the manifestation to take place, right? We have the substance, the properties of the spirit energies in association with the medium's energy, what the medium provides as well. And there is a third element, the cosmic fluid, that can be manipulated by the spirit, who may or may not have absolutely knowledge of what it's doing, but it's able to do it anyway, as we saw in the case of apportations over here, when Kardec had the interview with that spirit that performed apportations. And if you remember, apportation means to bring a object from one place to another by the spirits. And this object may be from the spiritual world or from the physical world, but must be from this world, meaning could not bring an object, something, let's say, for Mars or from Jupiter or from another galaxy. That would not be possible because it has to have affinity with the properties of this world. Okay, that's apportation. Sorry. And we saw on that, chapter that the spirit that performed those operations did not really understand the mechanism, how things operate, how it's done, but knew how to do it. It's like a driver. Many people drive and have no idea of automobile mechanics. But step on the gas, step on the brake, move the wheel right or left, and can do that. They can drive for many years, have no idea how the car really works. Not understand anything of automobile mechanics. We all are using cellulars, we're using the computer right now. Do you really understand what's going on, how we are doing this? So most of us do things without really knowing it. So spirits will have the ability of perform things that they don't really understand, just as we do here. But that's very important to keep that in mind. And I think this question 21, or the answer 21, is the basis to understand just about everything here, right? The principle is pretty much the same, okay? Is in the property of the perispirit, who is able to utilize its own energies associated with the energies, with the elements that a medium provides, and utilize a third element, okay, that I'm going to call over here cosmic fluid, because it is the elemental principle of all things, right? Any questions? So if we go back to the answer, now it makes sense. Are the spirits who appears always intangible and inaccessible? In the normal state, they are intangible. In the normal state, we would not be able to interact physically with a spirit. Okay, it's with the perispirit of the spirit. Okay, so that's, I'm not going to say perispirit of the spirit all the time, but you please understand that when you say that we see the spirit, what we see is the perispirit, right? I think that's clear for everyone. And when we interact physically, or when we hear, we are dealing with the perispirit of the spirit. The same way that right now you are hearing my thoughts as a spirit, but if you see me, you see a physical body. You don't see me as a spirit. Okay. So in the normal state, you could not really interact physically with the spirit, but they can again use their own energies, associate the energies of the medium, and associate with the distorted element, modify temporarily the structure of its perispirit, and render themselves somewhat palpable to us. Clear? Questions? Ebony?
Yes, thank you. Quick question. So when a discarnated spirit touches my arm and I feel that sensation on my arm, he's actually interacting with my perispiritual arm, not my physical arm. Is that correct?
The great majority of the time, yes.
Okay.
In some very, very rare instances, the the manipulation of the elements might render the spirit so tangible that it may actually touch your physical arm. But again, that's extremely rare, and that would definitely require a more dense element from the medium that would be what we call ectoplasm. Now, that may be you yourself or someone else in the vicinity who has the ability to provide that ectoplasm. But one of the things they're going to see here is our perception in a different dimension, so to say, of that touch. That the touch not necessarily happens, but we have the impression of it that that sensation be happening, which is also more rare. So if you feel the perception of the spirit touching you, likely it's touching your perispirit.
Okay, I use that example because that happens to me all the time, especially when I'm working.
When you are working.
Yes,
But
when
you
I'm
don't see it.
no, I don't see it. I feel somebody sitting next to me touching my arm or touching my leg, sometimes touching my face. To the point that I'm so used to it, I ignore it. But I always wondered what the mechanism was.
It is, again, it's the same mechanism, right? You have a degree of mediumship that is provides elements necessary to that spirit that combines with its own element, are able to create that, which for us is an extra perception.
Okay, thank you.
I'm calling it extrasensorial because it's not really a sensorial of the physical senses, okay? As you said, you're perceiving that with your perispirit.
Okay.
Anyone else?
Mhm.
Okay, 25.
Okay. Is everyone capable of seeing spirits? During sleep, yes, but not while awake. During sleep, the soul sees directly without an intermediary. While you are awake, the soul is influenced by the organs to different degrees. Thus, the conditions are not the same in the two instances.
Okay, so we can almost leave dreams or sleep outside of this conversation. The normal daily recurrence for all of us. All of us will dream every night. All of us will interact with the spiritual world, and quite often we will see spirits. I say it's normal because it's you are not in any altered state of consciousness or trance. You are just going into the spiritual world while the body is resting and doing what the body has to do during sleep. If it happens while you are awake, that it tells that you have a degree of mediumship, or you have what is called clairvoyance, right? And clairvoyance for the French is clear seeing, which is an ability of individuals that they have that open window to the spiritual world and see things happening in the spiritual world. They may see a spirit doing something far away and have no relationship with you, with that person, him or herself. They just see things over there, which is also very rare. Okay, but that requires again a organic disposition for both the clairvoyance and for the mediumship. All right, 26.
Okay. What does the faculty for seeing spirits in the awakening state depend depend on. It depends on the organism and the greater or lesser ease with which the fluid of the seer combines with that of the spirit. Hence, it is not enough for the spirit simply to want to show itself. The spirit must find the required aptitude in the individual to whom it wants to show itself.
Okay, next.
Can this faculty be developed to practice? It can be, as can all other faculties. However, it is a faculty that is better left to develop naturally rather than artificially, because in the latter case, there is a risk of overexciting the imagination. The common and permanent ability to see spirits is exceptional, and normal human conditions are not conducive to it.
So, what does the faculty of seeing spirits in the waking state depends on? Most often depends on a check of hand between that spirit and that person who is seeing, and will depend not only of the intention of the spirit to present itself visibly, but in the ability, in the of that spirit to associate it perispirit to perispirit with that individual, to be able to create that combination of substances that allow it to render itself visible. There must be a degree of affinity of those two substances of the individual who will see and the spirit will present itself. Okay, except in cases of clairvoyance again, in which we're going to study that eventually here in the Spirit's book, in the individuals who just see things because they just have that open window quite often to the spiritual world. And if there is this entanglement of those substances, if the individual has that organic component that allows it to have that, upon a minimum state of trance, disengage minimally from the physical body, and then be able to associate perispiritually with the spirit, the perispirit of the spirit and the perispirit of the medium in this case, they are able to create the possibility of rendering that spirit visible to that medium. That is true mediumship, okay? We're not going to say there is a true mediumship in the case of clairvoyance, in which the individual just see a spirit. You're reading inside of your home, and you look at the window, there's a spirit passing by over there, and not even know of your existence, which does happen as well. I'm not going to call it true mediumship. Some individuals may do. In the spiritualism, I think that would not qualify as true mediumship. When it comes to the development of the practice, personally, I like to change the word development to education, to educate your ability, because you have it or you don't have it. You have that organic required component that allows you to exercise the phenomenon of mediumship, or you don't. If you do, you must educate it. And through education, you may be able to make it better or worse as you educate it, right? Kardec, the Spirit says over here to be careful not to force anything, not to try to do that artificially. Through proper education, you develop that ability, okay? And not to try to force it upon upon yourself because you might overexcite your own imagination. I want to see so badly, and I'll push it so hard that I overexcite my imagination and start to say things. The same thing that we did in the stories of dreams this week, in which we want to see someone in our dreams. I want to hear someone in our dreams so desperately that you force it, that something happens, you already might imagine that that's what's happened. That thing that we seek for is what's happening, and it may not be the case. So you run the risk of committing errors that could complicate your own situation.
There's a question from Anna in the chat, Elmo. If it is not true mediumship, is it a psychic ability? What is it? I think she's referring to, you see a spirit.
Clairvoyance. The clairvoyance, you can call psychic if you like, you can call psychic. So the same explanation that we gave last Thursday, we're gonna call the mediumship when there is an interaction, when the medium is acting as an intermediary between the two planes. If there is no interaction of the incarnate and discarnate, there is no, and the incarnate is not serving as a intermediary, we're gonna call it psychic if you want likes that word. I don't. I say clairvoyance or vision.
I think that what is somehow missing here, or maybe it's going to appear later, is materialization, right? Which is the different case where everyone will be able to see the spirit if a spirit materializes in the middle of a room. That's
Yeah,
different.
that's what I said in the very beginning. The 3 or 4 major ways that we could see mediums. One of them is physical phenomena, utilization of ectoplasm, in which the spirit will condense, so to say, its perispirit that will be visible to the physical eyes. Everybody will see, medium or not. It's is it 2 questions in the chat or 1 question?
No, what?
Okay. Is that good, Anna? Does that explain?
Yeah.
Yes, Albo, thank you so much. Very clear now. Interaction is what is connected to mediumship. Thank you.
Yeah. Now, the word interaction, maybe it'll be interaction of and serves as intermediary also, maybe a little bit more misunderstood, because you may serve as intermediary for yourself also, and not necessarily for the other person. And a medium may not be the intermediary to pass a message to a third person. The message could, and very often is, for the medium, him or herself. It's still a mediumship. You have that interaction there. You have that association of the 2 perispirits there.
Hmm.
I'm 27, all right.
Okay. Number 27. Can spirit apparitions be artificially induced? Sometimes it's possible, but very rarely. They are almost always spontaneous. For someone to see spirits, they must be endowed with a special faculty.
Okay, I am reading the word artificially induced here, the expression, as outside of mediumship or dreams. I'm taking off dreams of this discussion, of course, here, because it's totally natural and spontaneous, right? But I am understanding that what Kardec is asking here by use the word artificially, if he's questioning outside of being a true medium or clairvoyant. if you could force it. And we know that is required a degree of trance or different kind of trance for us to somehow disengage ourselves with the perispirit from the physical body, partially, of course, to be able to have a deeper interaction with the spiritual world. Now, this state of trance, it can be induced by other things. We spoke last week instead of dream, we spoke of chemical induction. We know that extreme exhaustion can cause that altered state. We know that some sickness, we know that individuals, especially when they are close to death, they may see loved ones, if they're already in the spiritual world, by their bedside. There's many things that's been reported in these very specific circumstances. In those circumstances, we may see spirits. Possible, but extremely rare. But will require some degree of an altered state of consciousness that allow us to disconnect a little bit from our physical reality and expand our perceptions outside of this physical reality. That can happen, especially again, chemical induced, very high fever, some sickness, near death. Individuals has experienced that. When I was trying to understand better the word artificially, I came upon some individuals attributing that to being able to make apparitions artificially through use of machines. And none of the things that I read convinced me that it was real. They really see spirits. There is a Brazilian woman, forgot her name, who is doing tremendous research, serious research with this topic.
Sonia Rinaldi.
Yeah, she claimed to have been able to reproduce images of discarnate beings that those who knew those spirits confirmed that indeed was the spirit of that discarnated person. And then she is using some kind of machine elements to produce those phenomena. The history is serious. The ones that I read, I didn't like them, but I know the history is very serious, and she's really trying to develop that possibility.
I have a question. Sometimes the stuff that I read regarding chemical, right? Specific chemicals that can sort of open portals and stuff like that. That I said would be, drug induced, or some people claim that ayahuasca or something like that will bring you closer to spirits. And I know that a lot of that is a hallucination. But is there any truth in the claim that maybe an altered state of mind will open up and allow you to sort of like connect to the spiritual world in some shape or form?
Yeah, come to the principle that we know that spirits exists, and we accept that as a natural thing. We know that there's a possibility of interaction between the two planes of our existence, the spiritual and the physical, and we accept that without a problem, right?
Yeah.
So let's say that someone take a drug, medically clear, not abusing drug, okay? And the person takes that drug, tells to the clinician, the family members that I don't want to take this drug anymore because when I take it, I see this, I see that, I have all those perceptions when I am under the effects of these drugs. And they're gonna call it hallucination. But we can consider both possibilities. That's the pure mind creation of the individual because of the drugs, or that drug is allowing them to go in a state of trance that mimics a mediumistic trance, and they can actually interact with the spirit dimension at a deeper level. Okay? Especially when they say things makes kind of sense, like they saw their grandmother, and their grandmother was dressed in a way that is familiar, and this and that. For us, spiritists, who have the understanding of spirituality, we can say that, well, it's could have be a vision, of course. That that tea that you said the name of it, I never remember the name. It's being studied. No, and yeah, the individuals go into a trance, they hallucinate, but can I say that every hallucination is pure mind creation? Can some of those hallucinations be indeed you experience the spiritual dimension? And we know that it's possible. And we know that individuals, let's say, near death, and they come and say, "Oh, I saw my grandmother. I saw my husband of my wife who died 20 years ago by my bedside." We will not doubt that it's pure hallucination. We understand that there is a component of truth because you understand the possibility of that interaction between the two planes. But, and I'm saying this, let's say an individual who absolutely denies the spirits, absolutely denies the possibility of that interaction, you say, oh, it's pure imagination, it's pure hallucination, it has nothing to do with spirit, it's all about the brain. They cannot prove. We have evidence to show, but they cannot prove as well, right? So yeah, I would say the answer to me is yes. Chemical induction can open a window to the spiritual world, who could be good and could be extremely dangerous as well. You could actually get trapped in that dimension for a while.
Thank you.
Okay. The iPhone hand over there.
Tana.
Hi, Elmo. Can we go back to what you mentioned about this lady being able to capture through a machine images of spirits? So we've seen some pictures, right, of ectoplasm or this white fluid coming out of people's ears and nose, right? We've seen a few pictures like that. So for the photographer or this person capturing the image to be able to capture the image, is it necessary to have a medium of material effect or physical effects? What is, would anybody be able to see? If a machine can capture, does it mean that everybody in that space would also be able to see it? And my second question to that is also, so what does it mean when some people are able to see and others are not? Is that because it's not really a physical effect? Is it just hallucination from somebody's head, or are we imagining when we see it and others don't see it? What, how would we classify? I hope I was clear enough. Thank you.
Okay, so for the first part of the question, I think you are speaking about the release of ectoplasm by mediums of physical phenomena, right? That's it, that whitish, vaporous discharge of substance from body's orifices, right? Is that what you're saying? From the ears, from
Yes.
the nose, that had been captured in photography. Is
Correct.
that what
That's
you're
it.
saying?
Yes,
Okay.
that's it.
Yeah. So that's a physical phenomenon. That is a medium of physical phenomena that is able in that moment to release ectoplasm, that you have that appearance. Individuals, you'll see it without the photography. With the photography, it becomes more defined, more visible. Okay, it's like taking pictures today, or let's say, of the northern lights. When you see a very faint kind of northern lights, you see exactly very flamed. You can not distinguish colors, and a photographer will distinguish colors. You'll see a bluey, not bluish, a greenish. You'll see a pinkish that you cannot see by the naked eyes, because the camera has an ability to perceive some lights that the physical eyes cannot. So with the ectoplasm, the individuals in the room will see it, but perhaps it's not as clear as we see in photographies. Because in photographies is almost it feels almost like you can. It looks almost like a doll that you could put in your hand and play with it, right? And and when you see, I have never seen. Okay, I read of a group that still performs that, and when they see it, they see it whitish, but not as white as you see in the photography. It's still white, but more on the clear kind of thing. But they do see it coming out of the orifices of those mediums of physical phenomena. That is what we call ectoplasm, and they pour out from the orifices, mostly from nose, mouth, and ears. Now, for the second part of the question, all the possibilities may be true. It may be just plain hallucination. Just work the overexcited imagination as one of the dangers that I just read here. Here, that he wants to see so badly that end up overexciting his imagination. Will swear that so or not. Or maybe a more educated medium that allow the visual manifestation to happen, and when it happens, if it's a medium in a room there is only that individual who is a medium, only that individual will see. No one else will see. We have in our mediumship meeting, sometimes one of the mediums will tell that they saw this, they saw this spirit, they saw the individual next to another individual. And very often only one of the individuals has seen, others did not see anything. Okay. That perception has a lot to do with the state of mind of that medium at that moment. In the mediums, in the domains of mediumship, there is one episode that happens that in the mediumship meeting, one of the mediums start to receive a communication, and the spirit is in one place. And I don't remember exactly what was the place, the ambient there. But the different mediums will describe the ambient differently. Again, I don't remember exactly how it is, but just as an example, oh, I saw there was by a lake and there was some trees. And so, oh, I saw there was by a waterfalls, and they're not exactly. So they will see this in a different way. But they are seeing, they exercise their mediumship in a natural way. And as Andrea Luiz asked the spirit who was leading the stories at that time, how is that possible? That is one communication, there's one spirit seeing, giving a communication, but different mediums was seeing things completely different. None of them was using their imagination, none of them was hallucinating, but they were placing themselves in a different stage of mind. They would see that spirit in a different place, so to say. Okay. That is very hard to understand. What I'm trying to say here is that the fact that one medium sees something that is slightly different from what another medium is seeing, doesn't mean the one is lying, the one is hallucinating. It seems that they are in a different state of positioning themselves in the spiritual world that allows them to express what they see in a different way. But that is true mediumship. So all the possibilities true. Okay. See, a clairvoyant, a seeing medium, or a psychic medium, if you seeing psychic person, if you like, and I'm gonna continue to use the word clairvoyance, we'll see the spirits passing by, and just because they have that window open all the time, not hallucinating, that's what they are. Could be induced by drugs. Someone is, taking LSD. Is just pure brain formations, or it's indeed this individual enter in the spiritual world and interact with spirits? Could possibly be both of them, right? So all the possibilities there are true. What we have to keep in mind is, and I think it's one of the questions that Kardec asks the spirits here also, or answers the spirits answers here also, that we need to be very careful to not disregard the possibility of the spiritual manifestation, but not jump to the conclusion that everything that happens outside of our immediate physical perception is from the spiritual world also. We need to study and rule out everything else before we accept there was truly a mediumistic phenomena. But also never deny the possibility of the mediumistic phenomena. But again, going back, if it is a physical phenomena, there's the release of the ectoplasm that is visible sometimes it's not visible. Sometimes the spirits will bring that ectoplasm from somewhere outside of the room where the phenomenon is happening. If there is a materialization, if there is a apparition there, everyone in that room will see. Everyone will see with their physical eyes, because it's a physical phenomenon. A physical phenomenon, it affects the physical senses, our physical eyes. Okay, that answer it?
Yes, thank you, Alma.
Which one? 28 now, right?
Yes, 28. Can spirits render themselves visible in other forms besides the human one? The human form is the normal one. A spirit can vary its appearance, but it nearly always retains the human form. Can they appear in the form of a flame? They can produce flames of light, as well as any other effect to demonstrate their presence. But such attributes are not of the spirits themselves. A flame is usually an optical effect or an emanation of the perispirit. In every case, it is only a part of the perispirit, which only appears in its entirety during visions.
Okay.
Mm.
The natural appearance of the perispirit you be the human form. Most often, the appearance that the spirit of the physical body that spirit had in that last reincarnation. So if I die today and I show up a couple of months from now, I will have this appearance that I have presently, okay, with minimal modifications. But we have just understood the malleability of the perispirit, having the know-how or have the necessity. It may remold itself and have a different appearance. Okay, of course, for good intentions from good spirits and not so good intentions from not so good spirits. Somebody may show themselves look like a serpent, or like a dragon, or like an angel with wings. Okay? And now that comes a little bit of the folk tales, trying to give bring reasoning to some of the common folk tales, things that people use regarding appearance of spirits. One of them is the appearance of flame. Would the spirits appear as a flame? Well, again, the normal form, the normal shape of the spirits is the human form. Okay, we had already covered apportation, to bring something from somewhere else and present that thing. That thing could be a flame. It could present itself bringing a flame, or present itself with a part of its perispirit as a flame, temporarily and very shortly. There has been popular concepts that spirits would appear as a bright flash of fire. Most of the time, that will be explained by chemistry. If you want it, takes the care to evaluate it before assuming it's a spirit. But again, we're not going to discard the possibility that a spirit used a flame as a means of appear to someone. It could happen, but it's not often. The normal, again, is to appear in its human form, and the norm, again, is to appear in the form with the appearance that the spirit had while incarnate. Okay? 29.
What
All
are
right.
what are we to think of the belief that attributes will o' the whips to souls or spirits, superstition resulting from ignorance? The physical cause of will o' the whips is well known. Was the blue flame that appeared over the head of Servius Tullius while he was an infant real or only a legend? It was real, produced by his familiar spirit, who wanted to warn his mother because she was a seeing medium. She saw the radiation of her son's protector spirit. Seeing mediums vary in their degree of perception, just as writing mediums vary in their ability to write. While this mother saw only a flame, another medium might have seen the spirit itself.
Okay. The will of the whips has been now very well understood by science, right? This was a superstition that was created that individuals would see a luminous things coming out of the graves where people have been buried in cemeteries, and they would say that was the soul of the individual was leaving the body and going to the spiritual world. Now you understand that what's happening over there is a biochemical phenomenon. It is actually the oxidation of some compounds, primarily methane, but there is also some phosphate compounds in it that is a byproduct of the decomposition of bodies, right? Especially methane. You know, that smell of rotten egg when things go bad, right? And especially the human body, when it's decays, the worst thing ever in terms of smell. And all those smell, of course, are chemicals that's being released from that process of decomposition. When some of those elements combine, especially the phosphate ones, with the methane, they create luminosity. And that luminosity is what was called the wheel of the whips, that some people believe was the spirit of the soul leaving the body and going wherever they're supposed to go. Okay, science cannot totally explain it. Okay, there is no more superstition about it, although someone may choose to keep the superstition. It's nothing that we can do about it. And when it comes to the blue light, there was light of flame that was seen in the head of Servius Tilius. It happened, the old woman that the mother saw that flame come out of the head of the child that was sleeping. The queen and the king were present in the room. The woman was ready to throw water on the head, and the queen of the king said, "Do not do it, let the child sleep and woke by itself." They were so impressed by that they adopted that kid somewhat and made them the son-in-law, married with the princess, because they saw that flame on the head as a sign that the kid had some powers and was destined to something great. And Kardec is that did that really happen? And the spirits say, yeah, it did happen. There was the presence of the guardian angel of that child that was trying to send a message to the mother. And the mother was a seeing medium, was able to see only the flame. A more developed, more educated seeing medium, or perhaps a seeing medium with greater compatibility with that guardian angel, would be able to see the guardian angel, him or herself, instead of only the little flame. So this is where I go back to the question, to the answer I gave to Anna, is that will not jump and say, oh, there was mediumship really happened, but you're not going to discard the possibility of being a true mediumistic phenomenon. In the first case, is a pure chemical reaction that creates that luminosity, that flame. In the second case, and Kardec places them over here for that reason, of course, it was a true mediumistic phenomenon. Okay, questions? Number 30.
Okay. Can spirits show themselves in the form of an animal? That can happen, but low order spirits are always the ones who take on such appearance. In every case, however, it is a temporary appearance because it would be absurd.
I'm sorry.
It would be absurd to believe that an animal could be the incarnation of a spirit. Animals are always animals and nothing more. Only sheer superstition can lead to the belief that certain animals are incarnations of spirits. One would have to have a very complacent and impressionable imagination to see something supernatural in the somewhat bizarre circumstances in which animals sometimes present themselves. Fear often causes one to see something that does not really exist. Nonetheless, fear is not always the source of this idea. We knew a lady who was in fact quite intelligent, who was extremely fond of a certain black cat because she believed that it possessed a superb animal nature. However, she had never heard mention of spiritism. If she had been familiar with it, she would have understood how foolish her predilection was, since the doctrine would have disclosed the impossibility of such a metamorphosis.
The issue with dealing with animals and spirituality is something that we need to be careful, because we know the facts. But individuals goes in a state of irrational love towards the animals and things that they would not accept this simple reality that animals are animals, human beings are human beings. Human beings outside of the physical world, and go back to the spiritual world, they will have the human form, and they will present themselves in the human form in general, because of the malleability, the possibility of change the form, the morphology of the physical, of the perispirit, in accordance to the desires of the mind. The spirit may show him or herself in a different form, and that form may be of an animal in some circumstances. More evolved spirits would not make use of this trick, so to say, because there is no really need for it. If a more upgraded, so to say, animal in the spiritual world that is kept in the spiritual world for the usage of humans, we see that the spiritual world may have dogs, may have horses, and the messengers, we see the horses over there. And they are there for specific reasons. Of course, they progress on that as well too, but they're there for specific reasons for the human being. They could not, those animals, present themselves in other form, in a human form, so to say. Okay, they would not have the know-how of modifying their own perispirit, if you can call it a perispirit. I even know if you could call the shape of an animal, of a horse, of a dog in the spiritual world, if you could call it a perispirit. Okay, but we know that there are animals in the spiritual world, and of course, it's not a material animal; it's spiritualized, so to say, animal. They are there. They could only present themselves as they are, and a human being could modify its appearance and appear in a different form. And of course, it's all about intentions, right? The more evolved, you have a good intention, but the more evolved, not really utilize this possibility that is most reserved for less evolved spirit, would present themselves in a different form, not always for evil, bad reasons. Perhaps even we have the case again, I tell here, of someone who swears that his guardian angel was a white horse that appear always to him as a white horse, and brought good talk and good messages, but only appeared as a big white horse. And I made the mistake to say, oh, perhaps that spirit is changing the form of the physical body to appear to you as a horse, but indeed it is a human spirit. And that person did not like that answer, did not accept it, and of course never came back to the center because of it. So when it comes to animal, we need to be a little bit careful. Because again, people develop some unreasonable kind of love and passion towards animals that the reality will not fit well with them. And now when we get the theoretical essay on apparitions, it's basically what Kardec is doing here now, a summary of in his own conclusion of all of those questions that we read so far.
Okay.
It's a little bit repetitive because we covered everything here again. We're going to cover everything here again, but it's really a summary. Kardec's trying to reinforce the essay on apparitions. Any question, comment? Okay, so let's read 101.
Theoretical essay on apparitions. 101. The most common manifestations of apparitions occur in dreams during sleep. These are visions. We cannot here examine all the particularities that dreams can present, but we will sum them up by stating what they may be. An actual vision of present or absent things, a retrospective vision of the past, in certain exceptional cases, presentiment of the future. Frequently, there are also allegorical images that good spirits present to us as useful warnings or beneficial advice. If they are imperfect spirits, they may use them to mislead us and encourage our passions. The theory follows below is applicable to dreams in all other cases of apparitions. We shall not offend our readers' common sense if we refute the absurd and foolish notions of what is entailed in popular dream interpretation.
Okay, so we just finished the Topic of Dreams in the Spirits book with several questions. And you understand that dreams is we having experiences in the spiritual dimension while the physical body is at rest. When the physical body is sleeping and it's doing what the body needs to do during the sleep, a lot of things happening in terms of endocrinology, hormones, adjusting the amount of hormones. A lot of things happens when the body is sleeping, and the brain is kind of doing it to upgrade or update of things, getting things together, which create what we call fake dreams. Those very fast things that doesn't make any sense, images that comes and go crazy, like crazy. Those are perhaps brain activity happening. But there is also when we spend time in the spiritual world and we interact with spirits, and those interactions have the visual component. We see them, we talk to them, we do things with them. It's a totally natural phenomenon. It's not a state of trance, a state of sleep, completely normal. And Kardec could tell us here that he would not going to waste our time with the foolish notions of all the popular interpretations that we covered in the Spirits book also, right? There are books, thick, many-page books that try to interpret dreams. There is association of if you dream with this or that thing means this and that thing is going to happen. Usually it's going to happen, right? If you dream with tooth, means that somebody's going to die, and that's the one that I know. But I know that a lot of things attribute specific dreams with things that are going to happen to the individual. It's just folk tales. There is no truth to it. Although in some dreams you may have the opportunity to see things that has a great probability of happening to us in the future. Okay. I don't like to say it's going to happen to us, because then it's becomes something outside of the realm of free will, but with a high probability of happening to us. You may dream that we're going to encounter an individual that we offer as a good opportunity of work, so to say. You may not even remember that well when you wake up, but then 2-3 weeks later, we met someone, I don't know, in the gym, on the street, in the spiritual center, that we start talking, and the person offers you an opportunity to work. And then you make that correlation. Oh, I just dream of that. Then things comes back to you. Because what was fixed in the memory of the third spirit, the perispirit perhaps, was not assimilating to the physical brain. But when it happens, and it's required, that memory that is there, perispiritual, so to say, comes to you, and you are able to make that association. But outside of that, all those interpretations of dreams, Kardec called it absurd and foolish, and I go with him.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, 102. Apparitions per se occur during the awakening state, when the individual is in full enjoyment and has a complete freedom of his or her faculties. They generally appear in a vaporous and diaphanous form that is sometimes vague and indistinct. When they first appear, they are almost always a whitish light, whose contours gradually become more definite. At other times, their forms are clearly accentuated, and the minute traces of the face can be distinguished to such a degree that it can be precisely described. Their appearance and other characteristics are similar to those of the spirit when he was incarnate. Okay. Since a spirit can assume any appearance, it presents itself with the one by which it can best be identified, if that is what it wants. Thus, even though it has no actual corporeal handicap as a spirit, it may appear to be maimed, lame, humpbacked, wounded, or scarred, if that is what is needed to identify it. For example, Aesop is not deformed as a spirit, but if we evoke him, he would appear ugly and humpbacked, wearing his traditional garb, no matter how many lives he has lived in the meantime. One particularity worth noting is that, except in special circumstances, the least precise components of an apparition are the lower limbs, while the head, torso, arms, and hands appear clearly. Hence, we almost never see them walk. They glide like shadows. As for their garments, they are usually comprised of a sort of drapery that ends in long flowing folds. Spirits who have retained nothing of their earthly life appear with flowing and graceful hair, but the ordinary spirits of individuals with whom we are familiar usually dress as they did during the final days of their existence. Quite often they display attributes that are characteristic of their elevation, such as halo or wings, leading them to regarded as angels. Others carry symbols that remind that remind us of their earthly activities. A warrior might appear in armor, a scholar with books, an assassin with a dagger, or so on. Highly evolved spirits display a beautiful, noble, and serene figure, whereas the least evolved ones have something ferocious and hostile about them, sometimes still bearing vestiges of the crimes they committed or the tortures they suffered. The issue of clothing and accessory is perhaps the most intriguing. We shall return to discuss this in a special character because it is connected with other very important issues.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I think this passage is very easy to understand and doesn't places much room for discussion. We're going to consider the apparitions basically during the waking state, outside of dreams, of course, because that is totally normal. In the waking state, we could consider two possibilities, being a intelligent phenomenon in which only the medium with that ability of see will see it, and or a physical phenomena in which everyone present in the room will see the apparition. Utilizing again the ectoplasm provided by a medium of physical phenomenon. I'd like to remind everyone here that Kardec was not a medium. Kardec was not a seeing medium. And Kardec is passing to us information that he did, that he gathered through his extensive research in this matter, right? He is getting here the information that he gets from seeing mediums. When you see a spirit, how do you see them? And they will explain that's what we just read over here. I was reading a little bit on physical phenomena, and there is that commonality as well, in which sometimes the appearance of the spirit materializing, it's not so complete and full as one would imagine. Sometimes it's a vague human form without very distinctive shape. The nose, the mouth was not so well distinct. You can see it, that it is the human form, that is a head over there, but you can go into many details. Sometimes it's more vaporous, sometimes less vaporous. It will depend on the amount of the ectoplasm being presented, the ability of the spirit to utilize that ectoplasm. Would have depended a little bit of the synchrony of the two individuals, the medium and the spirit that is utilizing. The harmony of the two energies of the spirit and of the medium. And one more thing is very, very important, and that really may decide the clarity of the vision, is the quality of the energy in that ambient. We see that in the domain of mediumship, in which some of the intended work is not successful, cannot happen because of the bad quality of the ambient. Because those present over there was not collaborating, providing the proper vibrations for the success of the work. In the middle of mediumship, again, it's an episode in which they were attempting to do so much spiritual surgery, actually, and help, and they were not able to do it. And Luis asked what happened here. So, well, the Incan did not cooperate. They didn't bring what was necessary to maintain the quality of the ambient as we prepared for the success of the work. There is one case of physical phenomena in which they were supposed to have a full apparition of a spirit, and all they could bring was, I believe, was some rose or something, very shortly also, because the quality of the ambient was very poor. So those will define the degree of perfection, so to say, of the apparitions. And I'm speaking here in the case of physical phenomena, but also in intelligent phenomena. sometimes it's not absolutely clear the apparition of the spirit in the human form. But it can go from being quite nebulous to be very well defined, with shape, color, the shape of the nose, everything very close to perfection, as the individual was while incarnate. We'd imagine that a spirit, let's use Emmanuel. Emmanuel, when Emmanuel appeared, especially in Pedro Leopold, he would appeared more at the appearance he had when he in the Roman times, with the long, whitish things. Think over there, the high order spirit will be quite luminous. The suffering spirit will have a very shadowish, dark appearance. Again, the more evolved you are, then the more spiritualized and less dense is your perispirit, which allow the luminosity, the natural luminosity of the spirit to shine. And the more dense, more ignorant, more dense you are a suffering spirit, a spirit filled with guilty and those things will give you an appearance of a suffering spirit. The spirits may utilize objects that helps to classify or identify them as when they were incarnate. The one who was always with, let's say, with a cigar may appear with a cigar. Is it smoking a cigar in spiritual world? Probably not, but it makes it easy for the identification. Spirits will utilize the form that it had while incarnate, so it can be identified. Again, we always use that. If my grandmother show herself to me looking 15 years old, I'll probably have a hard time believing that it's her or recognizing her. But if she appears to me looking the way that I vision her in my mind when I saw her, when we hang out together in the spiritual world as a older woman and with the type of dress and everything else, so we have no problem in identifying, recognize that as being my grandmother. And the spirits will present themselves that way. The spirit, let's say, who lost a leg, individual who lost a leg, let's say in a war, and goes to the spirit and lives over here with us without a leg, go back to the spiritual world. The perispirit has the two legs. It may be that when it chooses to present to someone, it may choose to present without that leg just to be recognized, just to facilitate the identification for those who knew that individual incarnate as someone missing a leg. But the perispirit is in entirely with both legs and everything else. So that possible malleability that they will have, and they may have that transformation of the body almost instantaneously. Let's say when my grandmother thinks of me, it already created that connection of being the grandmother and me knowing her the way she is. And when she presents herself, she's already presenting as someone that I can identify as my grandmother. Okay. When we study the part of the spiritual world, in this book here, the laboratory of the spiritual world, you're gonna go into clothes, garments, different things. But just like here, we not being judgmental in any way, but when you see someone, the way they dress, the way they stand up, the way they speak, we have a fairly reasonable idea of whether the individual stands in society, the degree of education of that individual. Not always, of course, and again, not being judgmental, but the way you present ourselves tell us pretty much a lot about ourselves. And the same thing with spirits would be not different. Well, time is up. We'll continue next week, but you'll have time for a question if you need it.
Okay, so let me clarify here what I posted on the chat. The International Spiritist Council started today a bi-monthly presentation, virtual presentation, dialogues on mediumship. They are going to be presented both in Portuguese and in English, different sessions. So we had the first session in Portuguese this morning, 9 a.m. For those that want to watch it, you can search with the link and watch it. It was with Jacobson Trovão, was a very good presentation. And we have now at 1 p.m., so in 30 minutes, we have the presentation in English that is going to be with Stefan Bertozzi from Ireland, moderated by Rejan Plenner from Austria. So this is basically questions and answers about mediumship. So the first presentation today is, I am a medium, now what? Jacobson answered many questions about mediumship in general. It was a very interesting presentation. Okay, so starts now in 30 minutes.
The one in English is the translation of the one in Portuguese?
No, no. Okay. Completely separate things. Okay.
What about the link? How do you access it?
It's on the chat there. Can you access the chat, Ebony?
Not necessarily.
I posted on the chat. You have a link there.
Okay, I didn't see the link. I just saw the times.
It's the link. If you go there on the first, I'll post again. So here is only the link.
Okay, thank you.
That was too fast.
A couple of things. Our elevator is back up and running. So finally, we got back, but we don't have a meeting tomorrow. So of course, the elevator is ready when we don't have a meeting. So tomorrow is President's Day here. It's a holiday, so we'll be closed. But following Monday, you can be there on the 24th, and the elevator is back. Okay. Next Sunday, we are going to have our Q&A session. It's the last Sunday of the month. And this, for those that follow the book club, this week is the last, this coming Wednesday is the last week of the book Paul and Stephen. We're finishing it, and then we're going to start a book by Joana de Angelis, just called Dark, forgot the name. Okay, but we'll send information on our weekly mail, and we'll post the information. Okay, back to you all.
Okay, who wants to make the final prayer for us? No volunteers, I'll go for it.